Good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. I'm so happy that you showed up and joined in to listen and take part of my podcast. It's called You're Probably Right, where everything is right to somebody, and sometimes the left is right and sometimes the right is wrong. Yeah, that didn't really work too well, but whatever. All right, so this is You're Probably Right podcast, and you are welcome in my house anytime, figuratively speaking, of course. Now, there's something that really bothered me today. I picked up my phone and, it tells me the usage rate for the week, and I immediately went to this news app that gives me the supposed news, the hot flashes, the stuff that's going on right now that we need to know. And most of the time I actually avoid it unless there's something that I actually want to know, because I don't depend on the news, the outlets to give me what I need to know daily, because I'd rather focus on other things like the Bible, like life, like my family, like God. You understand? So anyways, I did roll over today and I saw something, and it's another bill. Now, I did do a podcast, I can't remember which podcast it was, about these bills that just keep popping up and out of nowhere, seemingly. I know they're doing polls around the place, and I don't know, I've never been, I'm I'm an older dude, and I've never been put in one of these polls where my actual opinion actually counted for something. But there's this bill 21. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. It's off of CP24 here, and I don't know where you live, but this is specific to the Toronto area, but I'm assuming that this is coming to legislation near you. So think about this and really, really take it in, because it's just getting worse and worse. Okay. Polls suggest support for Bill 21 provisions may have dropped in Quebec, 55 in favor. Okay. Montreal, a new poll suggests, okay, I'm just reading that over again. It doesn't matter, I'll read over again. Montreal, a new poll suggests support may have slipped for key elements of Quebec's secularism, damn, I can't even say that word, that's right, secularism law, known as Bill 21. A web panel survey, see, I wish he'd put me in one of these surveys, carried out by Ledger for the Association for Canadian Studies earlier this month found 55% of Quebecers are in favor of banning religious symbols being worn by public school teachers. Here we are. That appears to be a drop from a result of previous Ledger survey published in September that found 64% of Quebecers were in favor of Bill 21, which applies to civil servants in positions of authority, including judges, teachers, and police officers. Right there, I already have an issue with this. I do want to read the rest of it because, I don't know how many of you are really familiar with this thing. But I don't understand how it's like people don't see what could be happening or how this could be wrong at the same time. Listen, Jack Jebwab, the president of the Association of Canadian Studies, says that the seeming shift in public opinion could be tied to the recent debate on the issue, including the case of an elementary school teacher in Western Quebec who was removed from her teaching position in December because her hijab controversy contravenes, I like that word, contravenes the law. The incident prompted calls for the federal government to intervene in court challenges against the law and spurred by the mayor of several large cities to pledge their support to the legal battle to overturn it. The survey was conducted by a web panel between January 7th and 9th, involving 1,547 Canadians 18 years of age or older. Now, I'm sorry, with something like this, first of all, they need to poll the whole country. I'm sorry. Put these things down to debate and see how everybody feels, because we don't know where they got this 1,547 people. We don't know what cultures they are. We don't know anything, and we don't even know the sex they are. Like, really? What if it was 1,547 Jewish people? You know what I mean? It would be probably different than 1,500 Muslims or 1,500 Christians or a mixture of whatever, or atheists. Like, really? Like, when it comes down to these things that are, you can't take 1,547, a little portion like that, and then quantify it for 54 million people or 34 million or whatever we have here now. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know when Canadians are going to start fighting. It's lockdown, it's restrictions, it's gathering issues, it's all kinds of stuff. And we're all saying, yeah, cool. And, you know, pardon me if it sounds like I'm, you know, upset, or it sounds like I'm being a little bit abrasive, but it's time for some of this stuff, guys and girls and people. The polling industry professional body, the Canadian Research Insights Council, says online surveys cannot be assigned a margin of error because they do not randomly sample the population. Exactly. Debate over Bill 21 was ignited in December after grade 3 teacher Fatima Anavari was resigned. I like that. Oh, sorry. Reassigned from teaching duties in her Chelsea, Quebec school because she wore an hijab. In an interview, Jedwab said he believed the incident demonstrates the real impact of the law and that previously felt most symbolic. When we saw someone wearing a hijab being removed from the classroom, I think my sense is that contributes to this drop in support, he said. Premier Francois Legault has repeatedly cited strong public support for Bill 21 as a warning to any leaders outside of Quebec who challenge it. Jedwab said the survey results suggest the consensus could be eroding, although he said it was too soon to know if the dip in support was a temporary response to Anavari losing her teaching job. The poll suggests that support for Bill 21 is dividing along linguistics and generational lines. While 59% of French speakers in the survey said they either strongly or somewhat support banning visible religious symbols worn by teachers, only 26% of English-speaking speakers felt the same way. Exactly, and that's my point here. Amongst Quebecers, 73.9% of people aged 65 to 74 said they supported the ban, the highest of any age group, while only 27.8% of 18 to 24-year-olds said they did. Across Canada, the average was 33% in favor of the ban, 55% against, and 12% undecided. Across Canada, including Quebec, a majority of survey respondents said they felt like it was important for the Supreme Court of Canada to issue an opinion on whether Bill 21 discriminates against religious groups. Exactly. Opinion was more divided or whether the federal government should intervene in any eventual Supreme Court challenge of the law. A total of 39% of respondents were in favor of the federal intervening compared to 29% against it. The support was strongest in Ontario, but lower in several other provinces, including Quebec, where 42% felt the government should not intervene and 37% said it should. support was even more mixed when it came to the involved of the big city mayors outside of Quebec. The greatest number of respondents by 34% to 29% margin felt mayors should not support opponents of the bill. The sentiment was strongest in Quebec, while respondents in Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta voted narrowly in favor of a mayoral action. This report by the Canadian Press was first published January 16, 2022. Now listen, I'm giving you my 2 cents. And for what it's worth, you maybe disagree with me, but hey, maybe you're probably right. But check it out. I would rather, now I'm speaking as somebody who actually has a religious symbol on my body. And it's tattooed there, first of all. Second of all, if I had to do it over again, actually, I wouldn't actually have it. But I do have it just the same. It was a decision I made. And that symbol, I strongly agree, it is the very fabric of my being, of who I am as a person. This symbol. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be tattooed on my skin. It is in my heart, and that's who I am. And if it's a conversation piece that I can speak to somebody about what I believe, then I would do so. Now, my issue, and listen, I'm not for any other religions. I'm just being straight. I'm not racist. I love people no matter what color, creed, what religion you are. And, I don't have a vendetta or hate against you with your lifestyles or whatever it is. As long as you're not breaking any of God's laws, which we do, but you understand, if you're like a, pervert or if you're some kind of a child offender, like that's a whole nother ball game. But I mean, in general, like if you eat pork or you don't eat pork, or if you go to church on Sunday or you don't go to church at all, this is the type of people I'm talking about. But what I'm saying to you is, I would rather somebody show me exactly who they are. If I had a child going into a classroom and I didn't want my child taught by, so let's just say this is how I felt, honestly. Like I don't feel this way, but let's just say I didn't want my child taught by somebody who was wearing a hijab for whatever reason, or maybe she's wearing a hijab too. So maybe her whole face is covered. It's like we're all, funny enough, covered by except for our eyes now, and obviously our hair doesn't have to be. But let's just say your child is being taught by somebody like this. Wouldn't you rather know where they're coming from with their beliefs? Because you know that your beliefs and who you were raised as, or where you grew up in your culture, along with other things that are inside of you, like it does affect who you are as a teacher. It does affect who you are as a worker. So for all of these people to be totally against this, I don't believe what's happening. Like I believe it because the end times are here. But I don't believe it because it's passing through. I bet you a lot of those people would call themselves Christians. So now we're to say that now if you are a Catholic, you cannot wear a cross on your chest. If you are Jewish and you decide to wear the Star of David, you can't wear that. And then there's all the other religions. You can't wear a yin yang. You're in Taoism, or you're a Sikh and you have, the shield. Or like, are you serious? Like, honestly, I'm telling you right now, if somebody was totally against what I believe, I would 100% rather know what they believe because they're around me or they're around my kids. Now, I'm just saying, if somebody happens to be a Satanist and they have the 5-pointed whatever circling a star inside it or whatever it is, and they're going to be teaching my child, I could say no thank you. But if they're not allowed to show who they are, I mean, what is with all this anonymity? Like, why is it that we don't want to know anything about anybody? Nobody should be a woman. No, like it. Not even this. Like everything else. Like for instance, the he, she, z, and they, and all this. Like honestly, we're saying it's okay for this, and matter of fact, trust me, I know this for a fact. We're encouraged, especially after this past year here, we're encouraged to put that at the end of our emails, probably allowing other people to address us correctly, because sometimes when you start an email, you want to say, thank you, Miss whatever, or Mr. whatever, or whatever, and you don't know. So if you have it at the bottom of the email you've sent a person, they know how to address you, sure. If that's the only reasoning, and I doubt it is, but it's there. But we're definitely letting people know what we classify ourselves as, or our sexuality. Why do we need to know that information? But we don't need to know what somebody's actual belief systems are that are operating around us? I mean, think about it. The intimacy happens in the privacy of your own house. That's between you, the person you're doing it with, and God. But as far as what you believe now, that does factor in to a lot of things. And I'll use the easiest one, pork. If we're at a store and somebody says, can you not put this on my whatever because I don't eat pork? Right away you go, okay, either the person's religious, they have dietary restrictions, or you know what I mean? And you just respect it. But are you telling me just because somebody believes in something, they're not supposed to stand up for it? I mean, it goes against many religions. Some religions, it's like, you need to have this up front. People need to know who you are. That's why there's certain dress. If you look at some Hasidic Jews, then they have the men, they have the curl that comes off the side of their faces, or the Orthodox, like there's bindis there. Like, is that gonna be outlawed too? No bindis. So then that's gonna be a lot of issues for a lot of people who wear them. There's people with crosses on their body because they're Christians or whatever. You can't wear those. And this Bill 21, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. And I think when it comes to something that is going to affect so many people, I believe a poll isn't good enough. Honestly, I think stuff like this, there should be an actual referendum. If we can't have the top of the country make a decision off stuff like this. They don't want to make decisions like this because it's obviously going to affect people who vote for you. And they put a bill in, and they ask people, and they ask certain people. As I said before, I've never been put in one of these polls. I've never been asked in one of these surveys to see what the greater population thinks. I guess I'm not part of the greater population. And honestly, I don't even care about being included or discluded. But the point is when it comes to something like this that affects 80% of the population, I think that you need to ask everyone. And that's my 2 cents on it. So I'm going to get into the next part of this. This is a short one today, but I'm going to go through my next set of questions. If I can find them here, and you could just hopefully hold tight. Let's see. All right.
Maybe your stupid opinions aren't right. And are you so sure your life is going so much the way you want it to go, and you're such a bloody paragon of virtue, and the light is shining out every orifice, and everyone who disabuses you of your notions is evil?
So again, I'm going to do my little questions. We did questions 1 to 10 yesterday. Today we're going to do questions 11 to 20. And I'm going to do my best. If I don't have an answer, I'm just going to and these questions are out here, and I'm maybe paraphrasing the question a little bit, but it should be close enough. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to ask it this way, okay? So, do happy employees do a better job? My answer is yes. Think about it. If you're happy with who you're working with, you're going to be happy and probably do a better job. if you are happy with the pay that you're receiving, you're going to be happy. You're going to do a better job. If the climate's nice and you're happy about the atmosphere, you're going to do a better job. Now, maybe what some people are thinking is that the better way to motivate people is to put them under pressure. You might get more done, but will they do a better job? I don't think so. They might work faster. But I think that people are happy with with management, with the people they work with the pay that they're receiving, with the atmosphere. I think they're guaranteed to do a better job in general. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule. A lot of the time when employees are happy, they slack off, they cut corners, they give breaks to customers that they're not even allowed to do and stuff like that. But in general, I would say yes. Okay, next question. Teamwork versus individual work. Now, I don't know if you're asking me whether or not I prefer to do teamwork or individual, but I would say both. Versus, well, let's see. Teamwork, you have to allow other people to do stuff. Teamwork, you have to decide to take on your portion. You have to make sure that your portion is acceptable to the rest of the group or whoever's in charge. Teamwork, sometimes you want to do more. Like, as I always bring it back to college courses where you have a group project and there's something that you really want to do. Sometimes you don't get to do what you want to do. Some people want to do the outline. Some people want to actually do the legwork and do the research. Some people want to present. And then sometimes there's certain aspects that some people like, or most people like more than others. Like for me, if it was the presenting part, I would try to, if I could defer to somebody else and just do the research work for you, or run the projector or run the computer or whatever it is, then, I would prefer to do that. You know what I mean? Individual work, well, with individual work, the one thing is, unless you say you're a person who's predicated on doing most things with your control and your eye over it, but then you're also left to have to do every single thing. And unless, you can have people edit your work a little bit and look, but sometimes you don't have a person like that around because they're busy doing their own thing. Like if it was a work project or a school project, sometimes your peers are doing the same thing. They don't have time to look over your stuff with the proper eye. So you're left to your own devices to edit your own work. And sometimes you do need a second eye to look over your work. And that's where teamwork can come in. So personally, I would say teamwork over individual, but I think that you should always be willing to do your own work and oversee your own work without other people. Next question. Books versus movies. For me personally, I would say movies. I love movies for probably, I don't know if I love them for the same reason other people love them, but because I've watched so many movies here, I'm like the movie guy. Technically, I could be on here reviewing a movie every day for the for the rest of my life, pretty much. That's how many movies I personally watched. With books now, the better thing about books, especially if you have an imagination or if you want your imagination jogged, is that you honestly, you can't close your eyes, but in your mind's eye, you can see the people. They are created in your mind. They the way they're saying things, there's so much to them that it becomes a living part of you. And I believe stuff that happens in movies, generally you'd have to watch. For me, I'd have to watch it a few times for it to become like a living part of me. But generally, if I'm really in a book and I'm reading it, I tend to ingest and interpolate, and everything gets into my mind of thinking, and it lives with me, probably in a more descriptive and I would I'm more, as I said, I'm more of a movie person, but books tend to be able to give more to the reader than a movie does to the watcher, because they present, the color that the person's wearing. They present how much blood is flying. Like with a book now, if it was the same situation, it would be, let's say somebody was accosted by someone else, you wouldn't have to imagine 15 liters of blood splattered everywhere, whereas the movie just puts it out there for you. Or, I've heard many people with books that are movies that are rated, say 9 to almost 10 out of 10, but then people will say, you know what, you should read the book, or you should have read the book first because the book's even better. It's like that old story, like the story of Moses and the 10 Commandments. And you'd be surprised, unless of course you've read it, which I hope you have, but there's so much more in the actual story if you read it than there is with Charlton Heston or with The Prince of Egypt by Disney. And I actually like The Prince of Egypt by Disney better than I do the 10 Commandments, even though it's somewhat of a tradition for people to watch that movie. The cartoon is even more like the cartoon is more like the story in the Bible than the 10 Commandments with real people and Charlton Heston. But for me, I would say movies, because I can ingest it a lot quicker and get the idea and move on a lot quicker than I can read. And it was just something that I started as a kid because I wasn't that good of a reader, as you've probably heard me read on this podcast from time to time. Okay, next question. We got 6 more, y'all. Digital detox. Well, is digital detox good for you? I say yes, a resounding yes. To have all this stuff around you at all times, your phone by, a foot away from your head on your night table, or underneath your pillow because you're trying to hide the light that's driving you nuts, or it's just being connected at all times, or in front of a computer screen till your eyes are getting weary and you're buying Clear Eyes and Visine just to be able to look at stuff. Your glasses aren't even helping. If anything, they're making your dilation even less elastic or whatever. But I would say it's good for people to do it as much as they can. If you can digital detox, if you can just get that out of your system. Sometimes you have to offload apps that you have. Like if you're a TikTok person and you're going to look at one thing because it flashed on the screen and it's going to cause you to have to look at 40 more, you're probably not. If you're really not in control of how long you're on your devices, I think you really need to offload. So if you can't do a full detox, you know what I mean? You still need a little meat in your diet, maybe you can't eat steak, but you can eat a piece of chicken or a chicken breast. You understand? So, like if you're a video game junkie, you probably don't want to sign up to GameStop or whatever it is, or EB Games or whatever it is these days, for them to tell you when the new version of your favorite video game comes out, because you're probably not going to handle it. A lot of us need to get off the internet. It's not helping you. You're losing track of life, and you're losing the ability to properly associate yourself with other people in some type of a normal way without Photoshop, if you understand what I'm saying. Photoshop's not real, everyone. It is a real thing, but it's generally not giving you a real picture. And if you can figure that out, then you're ahead of the rest of us. Okay. Confidence versus knowledge. Let's see. Would I rather be confident or would I rather be knowledgeable? Well, they're not really asking that, but confidence, I would say, I would rather be confident in what I know versus just being compacted and downloaded with more knowledge. I honestly think I don't know everything. There's a lot I don't know. But if I can be confident in what I do know and that I can express this to other people of how I feel or what I think or, what we should do in the situation, and I can be confident to relay that to someone else or other people, then I think I would way rather have confidence than more knowledge. Although, who hates knowledge? They're both important. But wisdom is more important than knowledge and confidence. So That's my answer to that, even though it doesn't really answer it properly. But that's where I'm at. Okay. Should junk food be banned? Should junk food be banned? From my standpoint, knowing the amount of obese people that I've had around in my life and that I'm a little bit on the heavier side, honestly, with the amount of drugs, and I'm going to be honest with you. I was watching the show, what is it called? 1,000 Pound Sisters the other day. And to look at this one woman, I can't remember what her name is. It's the younger one in the wheelchair. And the way that it seems like we're being vultures on these two women's lives, it's like I feel horrible. It's like you want to watch, but the way that the show goes, it's like, don't you know these women need therapy? It's not so much how much they're putting in their stomachs as to the mentality, what's inside of them, the fact that they are doing what they're doing to themselves, and everything else is coming in line with everything else and making everything so confused for especially the one, and she's behaving like a little child, and it's like it's not even a focus of the show. They're just looking at her like she's bad, but it's like, no, she has issues. And getting to the point of the whole thing is, yes, why are we allowing unnatural foods that taste like natural foods to be sold and taste better than natural foods? You can get an apple candy or actually have an apple. They are engineering these things in labs for us to eat, and they taste good, but are they good for us? No. So if we really wanted a healthy society, instead of telling everybody not to eat meat or don't this or don't get that, just get rid of the junk food, and we'll probably guarantee you, we will have a more healthy society. So instead of getting rid of things like religious symbols on people's heads, bodies, and faces, how about we eliminate the junk food, literally ban it? I don't know how many people would allow that to happen, but with some of the stuff that, put on this mask, how about ban junk food? Instead of banning people from walking into places, and, let some people eat some food that has vitamin D, C, and has some zinc and all kinds of stuff in it to keep our bodies healthy, instead of just telling us what to do, instead of allowing these companies who are feeding us absolute garbage to do so. Okay. Fame, is it a double-edged sword or edged sword? Yes. And again, I will use my one tackling dummy on this subject, and I will say Russell Westbrook, who is being called, not so affectionately, Russell Westbrick, because he's shooting bad these days and trying harder than ever as usual. And he used to be respected, going 100 miles an hour in any direction, doing everything to win, is now being made fun of. And it's funny how things go. Your work ethic is scrutinized when you're a hard worker, but you're just not doing well, and you're trying hard, people don't care. And then it's like everywhere you go, somebody has an opinion. Fame, honestly, I don't want to be famous. I wouldn't mind being successful in my exploits or whatever they are, but I don't want the fame. I don't need everybody to know who I am. So I would say that fame is a double-edged sword. You get fame and people know who you are and you get respected or noticed, but then it comes a point in time when you don't want to be noticed and you don't want to be recognized, especially if you make a mistake. And we could think about all the actors. Think about all the actors that that die young or die horribly. I mean, 99.9% of famous people do not pass away like, what's her name? Betty White. You know what I mean? Pull up a biography. Find your most famous, your favorite singer, your favorite anything. and you'll find they died of liver disease, or they died of a heart attack, or they died of cancer, or they took too many pills and killed themselves. Like, and it's a lot of famous people who commit suicide. They can't handle it. And the joke is, there are a lot of them that can handle it, but think about it. Do you really want to handle your life, or do you want to live your life? So I really feel bad for people who couldn't handle the fame. And it's a sad thing that they actually had to handle it. And that's all I have to say about that. Last question. Money or happiness? Can money make us happy? Well, let's see. What is the famous saying? People who say money's not important don't have any. I would honestly say that money is important, but I would much rather be happy than have money, and it always brings me back when people talk about this section or this discussion, when you think about those surfers. All they need is a good board and some good waves, and they're good. Maybe a little bit of food to eat, and they can sometimes do that by teaching people on the beach how to surf a little bit, and throw them a couple dollars, and they're good to go and just need some roof over their head. I'd much rather be happy. Money can definitely help one towards, let's just say I love cars and I have a lot of money. I can buy a car and it can drive me real fast, or I have more money so I can buy a car with air conditioning. Is it making me happy? That's not really happiness. That's comfort, right? That's fun. But I don't believe that money can buy you happiness. Money is essential, or forget about money. Let's just call it commerce, or the ability to have money to do stuff with you is important, but it's not happiness. Anyhow, that is my last one for this week. This week. It's Monday tomorrow. They're calling for snow here. I don't know how it is where you are, but anyways, if you do have any suggestions or you do have questions, I would love to weigh in on some of the questions that you have. All you have to do is email YPR podcast. I don't know why it's so bad. YPRpodcast@gmail.com. Anyhow, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, share it with your neighbors, give it to your enemies. It's all good. And this is You're Probably Right Podcast. Signing off. This is MCM. Take care. I didn't know what else I could say, but listen very closely, okay? I love you because you understand, dear. Every single thing I tried to do,